Embrace HitMatch. Embrace its academic and professional reputation that has trained over 15,000 professionals in 10 years. Embrace HitMatch's numerous professional programs from HND to BTech, BSc, and MBA in the schools of Business and Management Sciences, Engineering and Technology, and the School of Transport and Logistics. Embrace HitMatch professionalism, excellence, and consistency with solid mentorship from the University of Bamenda and the University of Boya. Embrace HitMatch skills, development, expertise, and career orientation via workshops and academic field trips. Be part of the HitMatch family. Visit our Boya campus at Checkpoint Moliko and Douala campus at Carrefour Yoro, Jos Bonamusale. Contact 683-70-1720. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, the University Institute for Professionals.
Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour, the first for this week. We are glad to be before your screens this evening to discuss two key topics selected for our audience across the world. We are going to be looking at youth involvement in politics, asking the question as to why the youth would want power but are not fully implicated or committed to engaging into full politicking, and we're asking whether power should be handed to them on a platter of gold. We also are going to briefly discuss about the 80 years anniversary celebration of the National Chair of the Social Democratic Front. We're talking about John Frunzi, who celebrated out of the country. We are going to be discussing very briefly about his legacy, what he did right and wrong. On this edition of the program, the first for the week, we are discussing with a very young panelist, since our topic has to do with the youth. We are in the company of Mr. Anglophone Linwe. He is a teacher out there in Boya, Southwest Regional Capital. Good evening, Mr. Anglophone. They call you Mr. Gentle.
Good evening, Mr. Leonard and my fellow panelists. I'm happy again to be here among people to discuss issues related to Cameroon. I'm a youth, as you are saying. We are all youth, and we believe that youth have a part to play as far as politics in Cameroon is concerned. And we believe that Cameroon is meant for the youth because the percentage, 60 to 70% of Cameroonian are youth. So I think it's something that we'll look detailedly into it. I'm happy to be here again. And I also say good evening to the viewers and my media prime as a whole.
Okay, we're also in the company of Mr. Amba Raoul. He is the youth coordinator for the Cameroon Renaissance Movement for the Northwest region. We're glad to have you.
Good evening, Mr. View. Good evening to viewers of Prime Hour. Good evening to my co-panelists, especially to my friend Fabrice Lena. Good evening to my fellow brothers and sisters in Northwest, most especially those in the refugees camps, those in jail, to my friend Terence, and others. Thank you.
We're also in the company of Fabrice Lena. He is the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, the CRM movement, and also member of or a host of political and civil society platforms. We're glad to have you. We are glad to have you this evening, Mr. Secretary General.
Thank you very much, Celio, for having me on board, for your invitation. Thank you very much to all those who take their time to listen to us on Prime Hour, on my media Prime TV every day. I want to say special greetings to all viewers, special greetings to the militants of the Popular Action Party in present-day Northwest and Southwest regions, to all those in Yaoundé, to all those in difficult moments, and be rest assured that we, the youth that have chosen to do politics, have decided to defend your interests and to work so that together we can achieve common good. I want to say special greetings to those I'm seeing as my co-panelists, which I'm glad and happy to be with them, Mr. Mba Raoul, and my other friend, Mr. Ndukong, who I think together we will give educative message to young Cameroonians, to people who would like to know what we, the youths, have to offer to the society and the world at large. Because, like I always say, if youth don't live at the time of their life to leave the legacy that they are supposed to live in the time of their life, then they have failed their generation. I don't believe that we are those youths that will fail our generation, and I believe we can do something more than what we are capable of doing or are doing right now. Thank you very much, Leo, for inviting me. Okay,
we also in the company of Ndifo Richard. He's going to be participating from the United States of America. Good evening, Mr. Ndifo. Welcome.
Good evening, Leonard, and thanks for having me again on the program. I want to say good evening to the co-panelists and to our viewers, and to say that today we are discussing a very important topic that has to deal with youth. We understand that the youth population in Cameroon is about 60%, and we know that when we talk of youth, we are talking about people between the ages of 18 and maybe 35. And so I think these are an important demography in Cameroon who can actually play a very important role in affecting the kind of change that we all are expecting to see in Cameroon. So I hope that in the course of the program, we are going to be having this conversation to be able to see how young people can actually participate in the political process in Cameroon.
Mr. Ndifo Richard, I will start with you. Is the problem not at the level of defining who a youth is in Cameroon, where we have persons who are way beyond 45 years old, 50, still calling themselves the youth? And I will also ask you to give us an appraisal on what you think about how involved youths are in Cameroon's politics.
Thank you so much, Leon. Like I said in my opening statement, I think there is a universal definition of youth, and we might try to, for some selfish reason, try to give our own definition of who a youth is, but it is clear that if we have to define what a youth is anybody from the age of 18 to 35 years old. Any other age above 35 years, I wouldn't want to call that a youth. So I think, having said that, if you ask my opinion, if youth are fully participating in the political process in Cameroon, I would say that not true. They are not very, very active in the political scene. What the youth in Cameroon are expecting, what they want to see, they want a situation where they are given responsibility or probably appointed in position of responsibility. And that explains the reason why many young people criticize the regime for being occupied, being populated with very old people, which of course is true. But the young people themselves are not taking up enough responsibility to be able to have the power that they want. What we see in Cameroon politics is that young people, they have many of them where they are particularly active on social media. And on social media, what young people do is that they basically insult each other, blame every other person, blame the old people, and they do not take any responsibility at all. So if you go on social media, what you see the Cameroonian youth do is that they tend to blame every other person except themselves. They do not take any responsibility. They do not take any action to ensure that the kind of change they want to see can be affected. All they do is criticize. Of course, criticism is good, but when you criticize, you have to move beyond the level of criticism and actually take action. If you stay on social media and just criticize everybody, insult people, make all kind of allegations, and at the end of the day, you go back and sleep in your house, you're not going to see the kind of change you expect to see. Another group of young people are those group of young people who join politics because they expect to have T-shirts, they expect to have to be paid some money to participate in political activities. Those are the group of people who will go out and join political parties because they have been offered some kind of motivation, and they don't have any belief in whatever political party they are active in. But the situation is not all blurred, because we have a number of young people too who are really proactive, a few young people who are we really find them in political activism. Many of them belong to political parties. Many of them come to your show, like my very good friend of PAP there. I think those are the few examples of some very active young people who we can acknowledge to say that they are actually taking some frontline role in their responsibility. But a majority of the young people, as I said, are passive, they are evasive, they are docile, and they think that the problem is, they blame the old people and any other person for the problem Cameroon is facing, and do not take any responsibility at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ndifo Richard. Mr. Mba Raoul, he's raising lots of issues there. Actually, we are talking about youth and involvement in politics and wanting to take power, yet complain. How prepared are the youth for this transition? So much talked about transition that the president hinted on that when he addressed the nation on the 10th of February this year. Do you see the Cameroonian youth ready for this? Or you rather see the elderly still positioning themselves to continue with what we are observing in Cameroon?
Yeah, Mr. Leonard, I want to, first of all, try to make you to understand that the youth of our country has always been their priority to make sure that they participate for nation building, according to what the head of state do mention. So, but if you look at our political system that we have today, the system in place has made it impossible for this youth to make sure they contribute for the nation. Because if you, for example, on this issue of political humiliation, humiliation, meaning that most of these our youth find it difficult. For example, they find it difficult to even partake because the political system has not been guaranteed. For example, somebody like Professor Maurice Kamto, somebody like Pa Aya Abine, those are people on the front line that has proven to us that they want to bring youth together, but at the end of the day discover that they are being arrested.
Yeah, but you're still citing the old guys.
Yes,
You are a youth leader within your party. What is the role that you play within your political party as compared with what obtains in other political parties that you may want to criticize? Yeah.
Mr. Liu, that I want you to understand that the journey has not been easy based on the nature of the society which we are operating. Because, for example, when you meet a youth that you believe that this youth can contribute for nation building, it becomes difficult for that youth. The youth will tell you what happened to your national president. Was he not arrested? What happened to Aya Paul Abine? Was he not arrested? So it means the regime is making it uncomfortable for youth to partake. It's not as if the youth don't want to partake. They want to partake, but the problem is making the environment to be conducive for this youth.
Who gives power on the platter of gold? If you say you are citing the example of what happened to champion Professor Maurice Kamto and the former national president of the Popular Action Party, it is you are clearly saying that the youth are not ready to take the challenge because nobody will give up power.
Mr. Leo, we are here to make sure that we sensitize the youth on how the transition will be possible, because the task has not been easy. So I think that first of all, if mindful of the challenges and difficulties which our youth are facing, like for example, you can't be telling a youth to partake into politics when he knows that going in for that politics, the outcome will still be the same in terms of election. So I think that if we are to call on youth to see how the transition will be possible, I encourage every youth to make sure that he join a political party. First of all, by mobilization, try all as possible to make sure you join a political party. Even if you think political party is not of good interest, you join a civil society. If you think civil society is not of a good interest, you can join a pressure group, because that will be the only way through which your voice will be heard. Because if you sit back then and saying that I don't want to play politics, I don't want to do it, I don't want to belong, then we are instead giving the room for our forefathers, for those old people to continue to manipulate, and will keep on suffering and complaining on daily basis.
Okay, is that not the eternal problem, Mr. Gentle, where almost everybody says that we have been working in the past and nothing is changing, but you can clearly see that for the past decades or two, youths have given up. We are not really politically involved, with the notion that there is no need for it, since it is very sure that the President of the Republic and his party would always win every election.
Mr. Leonard, and I think just like what Mr. Antifo is saying, concerning youth in Cameroon, outside youth in Cameroon, when it comes to politics, they are not interested in politics in Cameroon. When it comes to politics, I don't say all, but most youth in Cameroon. What am I saying? So when you look at youth in Cameroon, they're on social media. Most youth in Cameroon are carried away by entertainment. Mr. Antifo made mention of being on social media, condemning people, keep blaming. That's not all. Most youth in Cameroon are carried away by musics, film industries. You see a youth in Cameroon, you call a youth in Cameroon, he can call you all the names of musicians in the world. Come to Africa, all the names of musicians in Nigeria, Cameroon. But ask a single politician and his position, or what the meaning of politics, they will not be able to explain. I will not go as far as first blaming the government for youth not involved in politics. They might have their own part to play. Cameroon youth had their own part to play. And their own part when it comes to politics is that very few of them are involved in politics. Come to think of it, when there's presidential election, or any election in Cameroon that involve youth, how many youth do participate? How many youth in Cameroon do take their civil responsibility to vote and participate in election in Cameroon? How many? The few that are involved in politics or in election in Cameroon, when they go for election, they will ask for a t-shirt, they will ask for money, they will ask for feeding before participate. They don't take that civil responsibility to participate in politics or voting. Voters apathy for youth is very low. That's very clear. But come to music in Cameroon, come to music in Africa, come to music in the world. Many Cameroonian youth are interested in. They will rehearse, they will play music from morning to evening. And when you come to industry, film industry and other things, they will talk about that. But when you come to politics in Cameroon, youth in Cameroon, the percentage is very, very, very low as compared to the population that we know in Cameroon. And now, when we're coming to look at it, what is wrong with Cameroon youth when it comes to politics? They have different mindset about politics in Cameroon. Some of them will say that no, they don't want to be killed, they don't want to be arrested, they don't want to be in prison. They have different mindset about politics. I have situation where I had many friends that they have keep giving me warning that even you go on TV and you keep talking, be careful, they will arrest and they will lock. So they have different mindset when it comes to issue of politics in Cameroon. That's the general, what I can say concerning youth in Cameroon. But again, come again to look at youth in Cameroon and issue related to politics in Cameroon. Some of the youth in Cameroon, and there's popular saying that if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And politics is doing youth in Cameroon because they don't want to do politics. What am I saying so? Even the business that some of them might want to be involved in, who will create an atmosphere for business? Politicians. Even the job that they are looking for, who will create job employment? Politicians. But unfortunately, they themselves, we see every day that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. How many youth in Cameroon are ready to take the leadership of tomorrow? That's why I earlier said I will not go far to be talking about government first. I will talk about youth within ourselves before we go to government. Mr. Leo, we have seen statistics in different parts in Africa. We'll look at different parts in Africa. In Burkina Faso, in 1983, Thomas Sankara took power when he was 31 years old. He was 31 years old when he took power in 1983. again, when the then president of former Zaire, presently today Democratic Republic of Congo, Laurent Kabila died, he was the son, Joseph Kabila, who took power, was 29 years old. That's a youthful age. We have seen situations like that. And not coming to the then Yakubu Gowon of Nigeria, he was rescuing Nigeria from civil war. He was then 31 years old. So that's the youthful population, Mr. Information here, between 18 to 35 years. We're talking of a leader, a president at 31. We're talking of a president at 29, Joseph Kabila, when he took power, his father was killed. But unfortunately in Cameroon, when you look about among youth in Cameroon, they don't care about politics. That's the gospel truth. The few that are interested, they're either going for something. They don't believe that they themselves can make change. Youth in Cameroon are waiting for employment, and it's a politician who will employ them. Youth in Cameroon want to do business. It's a politician who will draft economic policies or business policies for them to become involved in politics. So the gospel truth is that I will not go as far as first blaming the government. I will talk within the youth themselves. Okay. They are not interested in politics.
Fabrice Lena is a young guy who has been very vocal and active on the political scene in Cameroon. How easy is it for a young person like yourself, Fabrice Lena, to be involved in politics? Has it been easy to get other young people join what you are doing?
Well, Mr. Liu, to be sincere, it has not been easy. I will look at this in two perspectives. I will look at the perspective of responsibility of the system in place, government, institutions, education system, political structure, organization, and on the other hand, individual responsibility, which have to do with the youth themselves. Looking at the government, what can I say? When you look at the education system of Cameroon, I remember in 2016-17, I came in contact with Professor Alain Foguet. He was teaching me geopolitics in the university, and he told me, "Young man, I like your courage and fortitude, but unfortunately, if we had to teach you people what you need to know in Cameroon, then universities like that of SWA and all universities of political science and law, their students will be on the streets to manifest for their rights and to acclaim for them what they have to be granted from their government. But since we are oriented to teach you people what you need to know and how you need to engage in political process, unfortunately, you people are information consumers, teleguided in a particular way for the sake of obtaining a diploma or a school certificate, and not necessarily being an active participant in the political affair or life of your country. This is the problem. Cameroon government had succeeded to intimidate the feeble-minded youth, weak youth, those who don't know that courage as a virtue, to ask for your right, is more than all other complaints that you can put forth, or seeking to go for concours, be recruited by the government, dancing and carrying bags of the old talks around. But you discover that they have succeeded to intimidate the youth by propaganda messages. You are too young to be in this position. If you go to politics, they are going to kill you. If you go here, they are going to... So prison. You see that this propaganda message against the youth have succeeded to a certain degree, to a certain extent, to make youth to become afraid, to become weak, to become like, no, I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to partake in politics. Politics is a dangerous game. Politics is a dirty game. There is nothing dirty in politics. There's nothing dangerous in politics. And as far as human existence is concerned, there is no field, there is no discipline in life without an iota of politics in it. Be it education, be it family management, be it private life, be it social relationship, girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. Every aspect of life has politics in it. Politics is embedded in human. God, the creator of heaven and earth, is a politician. He created human being and oriented human being to be worshipping him with rules and regulations, guiding man left and right for man to know that the world belongs to him and him alone. That is politics. And if youth could understand these things, they will not be too afraid to say that government is strong. Every human being is equal, Mr. Liu. If you look at the way God created human beings, everybody has weakness and strength. Whether you add physical force, spiritual force, economic force, and whatsoever, every human being have strength and weaknesses. Those people in power who are old also have fears. They also have worries. They also look at the youth to be a threat to their power.
To reckon with.
Yes, a force to reckon with. Thank you. But we dance to their tone by listening to their message, by adhering to their message, and by like trying to succumb to what they are trying to tell us all the time. Politics not for the youth, politics for the old. And the definition of politics in Cameroon context and for the Cameroon government and the Cameroon constitution is appalling. It's a call for concern. United Nations define youth as people between 15 to 24. That is United Nations definition of youth. Unfortunately, the end of the definition of the United Nations is the beginning of the definition for Cameroon government. And you discover that in Cameroon, when you are between 20 to 30, they look at you like somebody who has nothing to offer to the society. But let's be sincere. Look at my friend Mr. Mbarawu. Look at my friend on the other side. We are full of energy. We are full of vitality. We are young. I think we can travel all around Cameroon in 5 days, resting a few hours, doing a lot of intellectual tasks and physical job, which these old people cannot engage to do. But they will come to tell us that politics is not for us. It's for you people who are weak, for you people who are not performant. That is what I ask myself. And then you discover that people who are already having a marital setup, having a lot of responsibilities, are those that are given responsibilities that are meant for the university students. Yes. So what is my message, Mr. Liu? I want to make youth to understand that the regime in place, the system in place has devised strategies that has worked to suppress the voice of the youth. They have devised messages, propaganda messages that has gone through to bring down the voice of the youth. And the youth need to, by some disposition, come together in a forum, regardless of their social orientation and political affiliation, and say, hey, where are we? Should I hate Raoul because he's of Sierra and I'm of PAP? No. We have to be friends. Even if Maurice Kanto and Ayapo Ofundi have their differences, it is not my problem with Raoul. We are youth. The political future of this country depends on our decisions. That means the stake of our life is based, first of all, on the individual responsibility and decision that we have to take before the collective decision of our political organization, because we cannot follow like sheep. We have to question ourselves as to be apprehensive about the decision of the approaching future. Where do we belong? We cannot go and mortgage our future to the old people because they have their differences and we are dancing to that tune. The youth need to understand that the old, both in the government, in the opposition, in the civil society, economic operators, religious leaders, have dealt with the youth. If they did not deal with the youth, one message I always have for the youth is that if the generation of the elite in the 60s plus were that good enough, they would not have failed the generation of their children, that is us. Because they failed us. Because they failed us, we are suffering the consequences of their failure. And now we have the responsibility to redress their problems, and they should give us that responsibility. Not only giving us, so we have to seize it. Mr. Antifo, we have to seize it.
Yeah, Mr.
Antifo,
Antifo, that's a question I was going to ask you. Many persons think that the youth have not been given opportunity to excel and express themselves. Many persons actually think that opportunity is supposed to be given to the young people. Is that how it operates? Mr. Antifo, there's no sound. I don't know why. I can't get you.
Can you get me now, Leonard?
Yes. Go on. Can get you now.
All right. Okay, so I was saying that who do you expect to give the young people power? As a matter of fact, the older people, they occupy positions and they jealously protect those positions. The young people have a responsibility. I said earlier that young people make up 60% or more of the Cameroonian population. And who put those old people in power? The old people are put in power by the young people. Look at the role young people play in our politics. During elections, they are the ones who go around doing the dirty job of the older people, of the older politicians. They are the ones who go around bribing people. They go around stuffing ballot boxes, changing figures in return sheets. The young people are the ones doing the dirty job. You hardly find an old man carrying a ballot box around. You hardly find an old man stuffing a ballot box. They sit in the distance and they pay these young people and they do the dirty job for them. That is the responsibility of the young people. They are the ones doing that, doing the dirty job, and they are the ones putting the older people in power. I know there is this argument across the board that, oh, what do you expect the young people to do? Election will always be the same. The result of election will always be the same. And that is exactly what the old people want you to think. They want you to believe that you cannot take power from them. They have the power and they control the outcome of the election. And they make you to give up trying. And so when you start saying that, oh, what do you want us to do? We cannot take over because the results are already known. That is exactly the kind of mentality that the old people, and most especially the regime in power, wants you to have. And when you buy in that narrative, and then you follow through with that, they succeed. I keep asking the question. When we come out, I was impressed by, I was amazed by what my friend of the MRC, Mr. Rao, was raising there. And he seemed to be limiting this whole idea of political participation on street protest. No police officer will come and arrest you for registering to vote in an election. No police officer will come and arrest you for going around to mobilize other young people, encouraging them to register to vote in an election. There is no police officer who will get to the line. You are standing on the line to go and vote, and he will come and arrest you or throw tear gas on you or fire bullets at you. It is true. Political protest, street protest, is part of the political process, it's part of human rights. That is perfectly true. But now when you live in a regime, you live under a system that is tyrannic, that is dictatorial, you try to navigate through that. You don't quickly just give up to say, oh no, if we go to the street, they are going to push us away. Going to the street is not the only way in political participation. Every time there is election, and the one thing I want to tell Rao and maybe Mr. Fabrice is that you are not doing your political party any favor by encouraging others, by telling others that the result is going to be the same. You are only further discouraging them from being engaged. Because there is no way a political party will win an election by street protest. There is no way, no matter how many of you come out on the street, the thousands, we saw the number of the massive amount of people who came out during the last election for Mr. Kamto. That did not translate into electoral vote. It doesn't translate into electoral vote. If you go into real practice, you will realize that practically all those people who came out, less than 40% of that mass that you see rallying behind him are actually registered to vote. Now, this is what the Bia and his regime, they do. They take their time, so many months, even years before the election. They do a lot of groundwork, making sure that they register people. This might sound a little bit controversial to so many people, but this is the fact. The fact is that even if Bia was to organize elections with all these other political parties and do not even attempt to rig the election, he will still win. He will win, and the reason he is going to win is because We live with the illusion that because people are dissatisfied, those people who are dissatisfied cannot vote for Biya, and therefore there is no way Biya can have a vote. But Biya always knows a way, the CPDM and Biya always know the way of manipulating this thing. Why the other political parties spent months and years discrediting the electoral system, discouraging the militants and other young people from going out to vote, Biya is doing the groundwork. Look at what is happening with the Frankist movement. The Frankist movement, as we speak, they're already in the field. They have already created chapters and branches in almost all the regions of Cameroon. And where are we? Those of us in the opposition, we are on social media insulting people. And tomorrow when the Frankist movement win, they say, oh no, they rigged election. You don't win election by simply staying on social media and making noise. You don't win election by simply staying on social media and insulting and blaming people. You win election by concrete action. And that is the kind of concrete action that the CPDM does. That's the kind of concrete action that the Frankist movement, they do. The moment young people start translate their activities into concrete actions on the ground, mobilizing, instead of insulting each other, instead of going after each other, they should mobilize themselves. And what I'm saying here is that we can come out in public, we can come out en masse, and you see the crowd. The last time we're here, we talk about the fact that the masses you see in Douala, the crowd you see in Douala, in Yaoundé, and in a few other towns, does not make up even 15% of the population of those who vote. They don't. The crowd or the number of people that we see online making a lot of noise online, if you take the statistics, if you go and do a thorough search and you do your statistics, don't be carried away by the fact that people come on social media and give you praises and say all those things that they say on social media. A majority of Cameroonians are not on social media. A majority of Cameroonians are out there in the rural communities. Most of them don't even own a mobile phone. Young people need to go on the ground. They need to go on the ground. They need to knock doors. Coming to this idea of, oh, the election is going to be rigged, we have to know that that is a challenge we have. And like Leonard said, nothing comes to you on a platter of gold. You need to work for it. You cannot just sit down and say that 2 weeks to an election period, you go and take your microphone and you go and sit on some places in Douala or in Yaoundé, and then you hold some big rallies and you expect to win. Elections are not won like that. We have to do some real groundwork.
Okay,
the villages and
okay, Mr. Antifor,
all of this need a lot of
Mr. Antifor, we are coming back.
Where does these resources come from? The resources come still from us. Chipping in.
Mr. Antifor.
Donations.
Okay, Mr. Antifor.
Barack Obama became president in the United States.
Yes, Mr. Antifor.
These are two different worlds.
Mr. Antifor, I don't know whether you're getting me.
If you want change, you must do some extra work.
Desmond is Mr. Antifor getting me.
When President Donald Trump was president,
wow,
a lot of Americans were not happy with him.
Antifor,
they did not sit on social
Mr. Antifor, are you getting me?
They did so much to get him out of office.
Mr. Antifor.
That is exactly what we need to do as Cameroonians.
Okay, Mr. Antifor, we'll be getting to you, Mr. Raoul. We see many persons are still writing that it's difficult to engage in politics, but the young people actually want to take part. They want to be, they will not want to be running after those they consider very old. But we have had some young candidates in elections, presidential, municipal, and parliamentary in Cameroon. We've not seen the youth actually rally behind these young people to say that this is the time for us. Rather, you find the youth betraying their fellow youth in elections. Betraying? Their fellow youth in elections.
Actually, Mr. Liu, on that aspect, when you look at those youth betraying fellow youth, I will say I don't buy that idea, because I think at this particular moment, in the process of transition, which I believe that youth need to rise up and see how they can mobilize to see how they can take over this. Because, for example, we need to understand that we are the ones suffering under this process, especially the youth. So if our youth, our fellow youth, mindful of our political affiliation, like what Fabrice said, we decide to make sure that we rally behind a political party, it will instead be on our own advantage, because we need to create an atmosphere. Creating an atmosphere in a situation of like, to make sure that the environment should be first of all stable. For example, if those in Northwest and Southwest can rally, make sure that we come together, mindful of our political affiliation, come under a particular group to make sure that we create a peaceful environment, and from there, because we cannot be talking about a transition when the environment is not conducive. So let's first make sure that we create a conducive environment to make sure that we put a lasting solution, because if we don't create that a peaceful environment, election cannot be successful. The regime in place will keep on continually manipulating all the youth, manipulating us. So for my brothers and sisters that are in Northwest and Southwest, I encourage them that it is our place to make sure that we first of all rally, join a political party, join a civil society, join even if you don't want it, you join the entertainment society, the entertainment industry, because at the end of the day, we now will be the one to rally behind a particular umbrella, put that force behind, and see how our demand and voice will be made. But if we sit and say we don't want to do politics, because I quite remember when I got matriculated into the university, I'm talking about somebody like one of my professor, Professor Banilon Victor. He made us to understand that of blessed memory, he made us to understand that if you don't do politics, will do you? And human beings are political animals. For example, you might be in your house, you are rendering your politics. You can consider one as informal politics. But when you become affiliated, it becomes formal politics. So now, what the regime is doing is, he is making the environment to be inconvenient for youth. So I think that for us, if you think you want to do that politics, but you find it uncomfortable, so the best thing to do is, let's rally behind an umbrella. Let's rally behind a political party. Because, for example, if you don't rally behind a political party, I don't think your voice will be heard. I don't think maybe your decision, you might have a very good decision, and at the end of the day, if you don't rally behind that political party, that decision will never be heard. You can have you can be blessed on the sector of the civil society. If you don't join that civil society, your voice will not be heard. So what I encourage all Cameroonians to do is, this is the time for the youth. So we should try as much as possible to make sure that we rally behind any civil society's political party, making that environment to be conducive. And if you have projects that you think that it can help, or you have ways or strategy that you think you can help, then I think it could be channeled through your political party, it could be channeled through your organization. So,
are the young people not also wasting energies, because they are very, very divided, dispersed amongst the different political parties that exist in Cameroon? Like he is saying, isn't it also time for the young people to decide, take their destinies into their hands, and say, all of us are rallying behind this umbrella because we think it is time for us to take part?
Mr. Lena, I think when he made mention of the need to rally behind a political party, or rally behind an umbrella, or something to make our name known, or to make our grievances known, I think I a bit disagree with him. We have seen situation. Let's look at Uganda. This popular rock star Bobby Wine, did he rally behind somebody? When he was standing behind the presidency, he had his young political party, 38, 39 years, 36 years old. What happened August 2018 in Zimbabwe? Look at the main opposition political party, Nelson Chamanzi. He 40 years, had it been he won that 2018 presidential election in Zimbabwe, he would have been the youngest democratic elected president in Africa. So I think we should, this issue of youth running behind somebody to make their voice known, of which the person or the politician might not be a youth, to make youth to become political talks. I think that is something that we need to know.
No, we are talking about a candidate who is a young person.
When we are talking about in Cameroon here 2018 there was presidential election. How many Cameroonian youth were behind Cabral Libri? He's a youth of our age. We are talking here 38 or 39 years old. How many Cameroonians were behind? We are talking here. There's a representative of PAB here, Fabrice Lena. Even the president of PAB, Denis, is a young man. How many Cameroonians were behind him? Or have been behind him? Those are young people who are talking here. So I think we're able to handle our problems with Cameroon youth. I'm still saying I will still talk on the part of the government, but within Cameroonian youth, what is the problem with Cameroonian youth when it comes to issue of politics? That's the key problem here. Because I made mention somewhere, I keep saying that 80% of Cameroonian, 80% of dictators in the world are protected by youth. 80% of dictators or any leadership or octogenarians are protected by youth. 80%. Either they are acting as security or spy or whatever, protecting these dictators. Our political talks I was saying here. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying is very clear. And this youth, this 80% of youth protecting dictator, they use the very youth, other security to oppress the poor masses who are still youth. So politicians or all leaders use youth to oppress the other youth, killing them, fighting among them. Meanwhile, the politicians who are all leaders still remain in power. That's the point I'm trying to identify here. So what I'm saying is that it's not a matter of saying that youth can mobilize themselves and start with their own umbrella. Why going behind somebody? We have seen situation in Cameroon where youth themselves don't want to support other youth. They instead prefer to being carried away by window dressing or some sort of bribe from these other leaders. They bribe them, give them to go and feed them, and they continue to support them. Okay, Mr. Leonard, what I'm saying is, let me look at the part of the government. Like my fellow panelist, Mr. Fabrice Lena mentioned, the government is also playing a part that makes it very difficult for youth in Cameroon to become involved in politics. The government has not put in place a clear organogram for youth in Cameroon to become involved in politics. I will not be talking about Cameroon National Youth Council, which was created in 2009, because it is, although we say it is not neutral, it's not independent. Most of the funding come from the government. You cannot buy the finger that fits you. What I'm saying is that, let me make clear now. Unfortunately, the highest fear among Cameroonian youth that frighten or scare them away from politics is arrest and imprisonment and torture. That's the number one. When you see Cameroonian youth running away from politics or become involved in politics, they say no, if they go to the streets to demonstrate or protest, they will be arrested. If they create a political party, they will be arrested and sent to prison. There's something I keep saying, Mr. Lena, I keep saying on clear. There's a leader or a politician or somebody aspiring to become a leader, and there's an electorate or normal citizen. When once you have made yourself to become a leader, a politician, one of your criteria to become a politician is imprisonment. Going to prison is part of leadership. If you don't know, if you are preparing yourself, Mr. Lena, I know you are a verbal politician who's working, part of becoming a leader is imprisonment. And when you are a leader or a politician aspiring to become, or aspiring to become a leader, and you are running away from prison, it means that you are not ready for leadership. Imprisonment is a college for leaders. It is a school for leaders. It is in prison that leaders they gain more knowledge and more education to take responsibility when they become leaders. If you want to argue me, ask Nelson Mandela what he did for 27 years in prison. He will tell you what he learned in prison. Ask Kwame Nkrumah. Ask Jomo Kenyatta. Ask Mugabe. So youth in Cameroon, their fear is arrest and imprisonment. Forgetting to know that it is part of leadership. It is part of becoming a politician. Okay. So, Mr. Lena, I will round up by saying that Cameroonian youth, when you want to see them, when you want to see that when they come to politics, they are not interested. Okay. Look, when there's election.
Okay.
During election.
Fabrice Lena, if I may summarize what Mr. Ndukon just said now, in the sense that many Cameroonian youth want to go to heaven, but they're not ready to die.
Yeah, that's a very good statement, a very good one from you to recapture the situation, the scenario.
They see you as a sacrificial lamb.
That's what they see. You know, most people always tell me that you are endangering your life. They're going to arrest you. You're going to go to prison, and the picture of the prison, like my brother on the other side said, is this is what we need to discuss and make it and demystify it, because people mystify this prison and leadership. To go to prison as a political prisoner is a privilege. It's a privilege. It's a privilege of legacy. It's a privilege of history that will refer to you as someone who's standing for the people and putting the people first. Sacrificed his personal life, enjoyment, leisure, and everything in order to give some of his time and freedom in order for a cause to be redressed, for a problem to be solved, for a problem to be looked upon. You know, when you are no more in the condition of liberty, in the condition of freedom, in a country where the machinations of controlling politicians, the early politicians before the young ones, is brutal, is arbitrary, no respect of law, no respect of constitution, you have to join a political movement. What I can say, which is a true problem in Cameroon, is multiplicity of political parties. This is a real problem. When I came to identify this problem, what did I tell Cameroonian youth? I said that you may want to take up leadership in politics, and the party that comes to present itself in front of you at that moment is Popular Action Party, PAP. That does not mean that the other person who wanted to take up leadership and the party that presents itself in MRC or SDN is a bad person. We have to understand that we do not create the condition that we found ourselves in, which is the condition of the complex society of multiplicity of political parties, which is the basis of division in politics in Cameroon.
No,
but what we need to do as youth now is that we need to create that platform of bonding ourselves beyond these parties in order to achieve a common goal. Notwithstanding, there is another aspect that I want to dive in, which is the aspect of social orientation of youth. You know, the social orientation of youth plays a very vital role in political process. Many youth believe that engaging into entrepreneurship, engaging into entertainment, engaging into self-employment and other activities because of frustration from the government is the best way of saving yourself from the government. This is not true. This is not true. As an entrepreneur, as an entertainer, as an artist, actor, actress, a celebrity, there is a quota or percentage of your life, resources, energy that you are supposed to, by obligation, not willingness, dedicate to politics, in order that the conditions of your environment, your industry, and your sector should be fine. In Nigeria, what do we see? Celebrities, artists, actors, comedians use their fan base to make the voices of the youth heard by creating contents that reflect the plight of the youth, that makes the voice of the youth to be heard. But in our own sector, we the youthful politicians that have dared to outstand by doing what others cannot do, will come and solicit, please, we just need the support of a voice. Make trend our messages in your very viewed pages. No, I'm not a politics, I'm already doing a lot in my sector, and so on and so forth. Because people feel that having 5,000 followers on Facebook or 10,000 followers on Facebook, you have made it in life. Okay. Politics define all sectors of the economy, including entertainment and all other sectors. And if you do not participate, it takes the political decision of a governor, a mayor, an SDO of your area to wipe off your enterprise. So the earlier we get to know ourselves, to understand that we have to take a role, we have to play a role, it must not be full engagement, but just few commitment to give a certain percentage of our time and resources for it. We will all have collective energy to change in our different areas of expertise.
Okay, and for Richard, I'm going to ask you these questions. We're talking about being ready for transition, and many persons would say that the conditions are not very favorable, but do you think the Cameroonian youth is also very distracted? We see things are very difficult, but not far from Bonamusadi here in Douala. We see what most of us are engaged in from morning till night. You are someone who is resident in Boya. We see the life of young people in Moliko and across other cities like Bomenda and like in Yaoundé and other parts. Do you also think that we are too distracted as young people in Cameroon? We are so much engaged in heavy boozing and also womanizing and other things.
That is that's a real concern. It's a real concern. Understand that in Cameroon, a lot of young people, in particular, they spend their time drinking. They spend their time interested more in football than in politics. People can spend hours upon hours talking about football, but when you bring in politics, you're going to discourage many people, and many of them might even leave the place. So we find a situation where you find who are interested in drinking. When they are drinking sport, they have two things that the topic of conversation that you find among them is either they are talking about football or they are talking about women. You will hardly find them engaged in real political debate. And even if at all they have to engage in political debate, the discussion is always on blaming the old people, blaming those who have been there and all of that. They don't really strategize. They don't really mobilize. As I read on the comment on Facebook, somebody making mention of the fact that social media is an important tool, and it seems as if the person is thinking that I'm minimizing the importance of social media. Not at all. I'm not minimizing the use of social media. Rather, what I'm saying is that we could use the social media positively than use it the way we are using. If you look at how we're using social media right now, and we compare it with what happened maybe in during the Arab Spring, you see that during the Arab Spring and in all the other places where some change took place, like in Egypt, in Tunisia, and in all those other places, what happened is that they used the social media as a mobilizing tool, as a tool to mobilize fellow young people, as a tool to strategize, as a tool to share ideas and all of that. Unfortunately, in our own situation, we use the social media to complain. We just keep complaining. You see, in the case of the Arab Spring, they were complaining, but they were also finding solutions. They were also mobilizing, strategizing, trying to find a way of fighting the regime or the bad government that they had. In our own situation, we don't have any solution. And as a matter of fact, when you come up with a solution on social media, they tell you it cannot work. Any solution whatsoever you bring, they only tell you it cannot work. And they don't have any other solution to provide. If you go right now and you look at the comments, I was just looking at it a few minutes ago, and the comments under this particular conversation we are having, a majority of people keep just saying that elections cannot work. But they are not offering any other alternative. They are not giving any other alternative. And the question I keep asking myself is, do we fold our arms and stay quiet and just watch things happen the way they're happening? If that is the option we have chosen, then we don't have any reason to complain anymore, because the complaint is not useful. It doesn't help. If we are complaining, we should also be strategizing. We should also be coming up with ideas. We should also be trying to find out how best can we find a solution to this problem. What is the best solution we can use? And the best way to get a solution is to look at best practices elsewhere in the world. Look at how did it happen in this place or that place. Those are the kind of idea and conversation that we expect that young people should be engaged in on social media. Young people should be engaged in discussing and finding strategies, trying to look at how they can overcome the challenges. There is nothing in this world that you will have without having some kind of roadblocks, some kind of barriers, some challenges. Those challenges will always be there. What you need to do is to find a way of overcoming those challenges. And the biggest challenge we have here, which of course I'm not refusing that the challenge does not operate, is the problem of our electoral system. We have a real problem with our electoral system. But there is a possibility of overcoming that challenge. There is a possibility of fighting that back. And the possibility is one that none of us are willing to try. We are not, and it doesn't cost us anything. And what is it? The only thing we need to do is to mobilize, massively go out and register, massively go out and vote. If we try this, we have not had this before. I remember the last time we had the massive electoral vote was in 1992. Since 1992 till now, if you look at all the statistics of election from 1992 till now, no, we have never crossed the threshold of 30 or 40% participation. If we can do, in 1992, there was close to 70% participation. We have not hit that record yet. And at that stage, what happened at that stage is not like the election was some kind of outlet, it was manipulated or whatsoever. The election, it was clear somebody won. And it was clear that they outrightly refused that that person cannot be president. And that kind of a situation cannot happen in our time right now. A lot of people say that Kamto won in 2018. That is very doubtful. It's very doubtful. Kamto did not even have representatives in so many places in the north. Kamto did not even have representatives in so many rural communities. There are many places in Cameroon, you go there, you mention Kamto, nobody even knows him. But when we see the population and we see the crowd in Douala and in other places, we get motivated, we start thinking that that is the victory. Victory is not won in the urban centers. Victory is won in rural communities, in rural areas, in those places that are even inaccessible. And so I keep challenging those who said Kamto won in 2018 to provide evidence, because I don't see any evidence apart from the fact that he came out and declared himself president. And so, therefore, we should move away from that kind of thought and start thinking of how do we strategize and use the same method, an even better method than what the CPDM is doing. This, like I said earlier, the CPDM is using they're going right down there in the root. They do a lot of mobilization. And we cannot just sit in the city and on social media and think that we can win election in Cameroon. It's not possible.
Register many persons. I'm sure that was last month, preparing for reorganization at the basic levels. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your panelists. You are educating Cameroonians with your program. Youth should not be afraid to go into politics and also get ready to write the exam by being arrested and sent to prison. The panelist by your left has good knowledge about political prisoners all over the world. He's speaking the truth. Eko Kangumba, writing from great support in Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We, the youth in this country, need to engage more in economic activities to empower ourselves financially, impact our communities positively before we can affect any change in our politics. It starts from our local communities, not Yaoundé. Okay, Nde is writing from Limbe. You are into politics. When you observe young people, because almost everybody is complaining, but you are the Northwest coordinator for the CRM movement, how positively are young people adding to your career? When you read social media, is there solidarity amongst yourself, or rather everybody is quick to criticize you, blackmail another young persons and pulling them down?
Mr. Liu, you see, we of the CRM have 5 projects.
Okay.
And the principal project is political. So, but finding myself in a situation like where I am in the Northwest is a very difficult task.
Okay.
Because we of the CRM, on this political issue, we need to put it at a very low profile because of the majorities of Southern Cameroonians that are dying on daily basis, because of the majority of our brothers in solidarity to those that are in jail, which I consider as political prisoners, in solidarity of those that their homes, property have been destroyed. So it is very difficult for you to go and sit and meet someone in Northwest and you are telling the person about politics. So, but that does not hinder us from rendering our political activities. We equally have this other social aspect, health aspect. Like, for example, I was in Bambili, where I was able to render, to distribute face mask, hand sanitizer. And that is one of our projects that we are fighting for. And the fact that there is a problem that does not mean we should carry the political issues back then in Northwest. We cannot be talking about political activity while people are dying. So our first priority is that these issues should be resolved before we can carry. When the environment is conducive, when the environment is favorable in Northwest and Southwest, at that particular moment, we are going to do the politics which we want to do. In other areas like in Bafusam, in the West region, in Betua, we can carry out, we can extend, take it high to the highest level on the political aspect. But in the on the political aspect, but when it comes to political activities in Northwest and Southwest, we say there is a problem there. We cannot go in Northwest and doing high level of politics there. No, if we want to do it at the level, we can be there to sensitize people that it is preferable for you to join and be under the canopy of the of a political party or a group or pressure group. It will help, because, for example, what I came to realize is most of our brothers that are dying on ground, most of our brothers that are dying on daily basis, if they belong to a political party or just like an umbrella under the political, it could pave their way to even give them a lifespan. For example, there was a time, that was 2019, I was arrested, suspected to be an Amber Boys. Just like that, when I went to distribute membership card to my militants in Bambili, so arriving there, I was arrested. So, but within a twinkle of an eye, immediately I was arrested, I led my forum, just assume if I was not a militant of Cameroon Renaissance, my life could have been taken. So that is why to tell my fellow brothers and sisters to belong to a political party is not that you should come and play a political game or play a political party. Being under a political party or a pressure group can easily make your voice to be heard. It can easily give you that ground for it, because we are operating, like, for example, you see the case that happened to our brother, the Jibri. It's really bad. It's so sad. Look at the case that happened in below Foncha, where a guy was shot there. So what if that guy belonged to a political party or belonged to a pressure or civil society? At that moment, he could have known that there is danger. He alert the forum, where it could be an easy means for him to for his life to be safe. So the reason for us saying that join does not necessarily mean that you should come, let's play politics, you should come, let's, no. For the sake of our country, for the sake of the regime, which all Cameroonians know that there is a problem and there is a bad system which we know we are operating in, it is advisable that look for, I'm not saying that you should go and join the CERM, you can even go under the public action, you can even look for a civil society, join there, so that you people together, the voice can easily be heard. So that is.
You did not answer my question. Eh? Are the youths rather fighting more amongst themselves than joining forces to push 1, 2, 3 candidates ahead?
Mr. Leonard, I will compare the attitude of youth in Cameroon towards politics to the division among youth in Cameroon. I will compare the infighting among them. I will compare it to opposition parties in Cameroon. Okay. Yeah, the inability of opposition parties in Cameroon to form a coalition, the same like inability of youth in Cameroon to come together and form a very strong force to rally behind somebody. And I keep saying that if we are youth here and we are campaigning for youth here, we should not be making mention related to our party leader who is not a youth. Mr. Rawo, I'm sorry to make mention of this. If I'm to support any party here now, I will not support you, because Maurice Kamto is not a youth. But I will support PAP, because my fellow colleague here, Lena, is a youth, and his party president is a youth. I think that is something that is probably why I said I will compare this situation with opposition parties in Cameroon. Just as it's very difficult for opposition parties in Cameroon to form coalition, that's how it's very difficult with youth in Cameroon to come together and support the youth. who is a president. That's why Elame mentioned that there was 2018 presidential election in Cameroon. Cabral Libi was there. He was a youth. How many Cameroonian youth supported him? That's the problem here. And the infighting, Mr. Leonard, we were talking about infighting. The infighting among youth, or the division among youth here, I keep saying that so the infighting is being masterminded. And I will not blame I will not blame whatever they are doing. I will blame the wars told, as Mr. Leonard mentioned, the wars told that finally worsened the situation of youth in Cameroon related to politics. It's unemployment and poverty. Worse is poverty. Stomach first. That's the problem with youth in Cameroon. And that is why, because of the hunger, because of poverty, because of employment, they will do and undo. That is why during the election, they either talk about those who are carrying electoral materials, those who go with ballot papers. They are youth. Why? Because they need to feed their stomach. So I think if the youth in Cameroon, as Raul Elame mentioned, that there's a need for them to come under a single, in order to overcome this division, this infighting. Youth should first believe in themselves. First, that we are youth in Cameroon. And the first thing, as Mr. Lena was talking about umbrella, if you people believe in yourselves as youth in Cameroon and the need for you people to involve in politics, first, you people should look for a political party leader in Cameroon who is the youth. It is very clear. I don't want to be calling names here. I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. I'm not having a particular political party I'm supporting. But it is very clear. We want to become involved in politics. We want to form a powerful force as a people, as youth. We are trying to differentiate between the old and the young ones, please. We are not trying to bring in ideology, political ideology here. Because at the end of the day, if you are a youth and you come closer to me, campaign or trying to win my interest, support another leader who is an old person, it means that we are just rotating. We are not going ahead. So what I'm saying is clear that if youth in Cameroon are forming an umbrella, either through social media or whatever, they must support a youth who will take over power with the ideology or with the mindset of a youth to solve their problems. Not that you will come again and be campaigning me that when I'm looking at a leader is an authoritarian. It does not make sense. So finally, what I'm saying is that yes, there's infighting among youth in Cameroon. Why is that there's infighting among the politics of the stomach? They need to feed themselves. There's high unemployment. There's general poverty. So how does that lead to that division? The other people who are in power use that opportunity that there's poverty among to use money or whatever and attract them to wherever they are going. And that's why another youth will tend to fight and kill another youth because another youth is an obstacle or trying to block him to go to where he will earn something to feed his family. So that's that. So on this point, Mr. Lowe, what I keep repeating is that if youth in Cameroon must form this strong force, we must begin to look at parties that their leader is a youth. If somebody is coming to campaign to you that, no, I've given you this, I want you this, and they see that the leader is not a youth, then don't support the person. We must believe that we are talking about youth. Mr. Antifa, let's define the youthful age. Let's talk of 18 to 35 years. If the leader is already 40, we give the limit 40. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, when he was appointed, he was 41 years old. He's the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. You can call that one. We can put that as a youthful age. We have seen situations like the former Minister of Finance in Angola, Vanessa da Souza. She was appointed at the age of 35. We are talking about youthful age here. So if youth must be able to mobilize a force in Cameroon, they should support a leader who is a youth, and not a leader who is an authoritarian or an old person. It will not make sense.
Good evening, Mr. Liu, and the panelists said the political scenario in Cameroon is full of fright, hence making the youth shy away from politics. The fear of Kondengi is the beginning of wisdom. Lister Montana is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. No electricity in Kumba. Can't even watch online because of poor network. Daisy, good evening to you in Kumba there. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and the vibrant and ambitious young politicians, Mr. Fabrice. You really inspire the youth of our generation. The truth is that the youth have lost trust in the political process in Cameroon. The only way the youth could have a say in the political life of the country is by taking the power themselves and not lean on any old politician, because over the years, old politicians have failed. I'm Ashu Robinson, writing from Yaoundé. Greetings to you, Mr. Liu, and panelists. The government of Cameroon, especially the justice system, is to be blamed. Over 80% for the poor participation of Cameroonian youths in politics. The terrain is not fair. Politics in Cameroon has been monopolized by the old people, especially those of the CPDM and the current government. The day led by the CPDM, they control the money of the country, they control justice system and the security system. Okay. Let the terrain be made fair by reserving a percentage quota of state departments and political offices for the youth in all councils area in this country. First, let the government solve the problem in the northwest and southwest, because many youths are being radicalized by each passing day. I am Tikum T, writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Tikum, always participating. Oops. Stop the calls. Jotin, Amy writing from Jotin says, Mr. Liu, good evening. No lights in Bamenda. I'm really missing the program. Okay, Kumba does not have light. Bamenda also says they don't have light. Prince Dikum writing from Sweden says, good evening, Mr. Liu and crew. Talking of youth involved in politics, it's a big shame to see some young men talking and laying insults on youth for not involving in politics. A so-called president has been in power for almost 40 years, president of Senate, almost 90 years, president of National Assembly, has been there for almost 40 years. Ask those guys saying that Thomas Sankara took power at 31, that any child that was born when the president took power at almost 40 years, okay? Njikum from Sweden, good evening to you. Stephen Mwambo says, Mr. Liu, politics is not for the poor. Most youths are poor and can't even afford rent, get married, sponsor children, pay lawyers, and so on. How do you engage in politics when you are broke? This is why many youths are controlled by the rich and old. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and your panelists. More power to your elbows. I want to believe that one of our main problems in this country is the numerous political parties with divided views and selfish interests, whereby everyone wants to be the president. If all these political parties mean to change the regime in place as they come up on board every day and discredit, they should come together and form one party. That way, I think they can manage to challenge the almighty CPDM, which is planted all over the country. Without this, they are making noise, empowering the CPDM to be stronger, okay? Michelson from Yaoundé says, Mr. Liu, good evening. One of our panelists said of belonging to a political party. Thus, it means that if you don't belong to any political party, you just be arrested. No, that's not what he's saying. He has said that you could belong to a civil society organization or any other platform. Good evening, Mr. Liu. For Richard Riley said in 1992, somebody won the elections and they refused him from ruling. What will guarantee that the youth will be given the opportunity to rule, especially when they are still the same people in power now? Neutral, writing from Bamenda. Some people say youth are poor. Others say that the energies are so divided. Now, many persons are scared. Is power ever given?
No.
Is there a day that the old people say, oh, we want to guarantee a level ground where young people will take over?
What people need to know about politics and power is that politics is using the resources that you have, which can be intellectual, which can be material, which can be spiritual, to control. And this control, dominion, and exercise of decision over people who adhere to what you propose, what you decide, what you devise, is what we call power. Many people get confused and think that economic power defines political power. On the contrary, I would want to disagree with the panelists who said many youths are poor and they are not supposed to engage in politics because they are unable to afford rent and whatsoever. Ideas well designed can fetch all the amount of money on earth. So it comes first of all from internal resources, which can be ideas, which can be a talent, which can be a good strategy that you put in place. So we should not confuse economic power with political power. Economic power has its place, political power has its place, and the two goes side by side like one coin with two sides. In the context of youth inability to afford with a good idea, forum, and trying to devise and look for the people who can support what you are proposing to the public, you can have the support and the resources. People who come with resources and come and support you. But we should not believe that you must have all the money, because we should know that material condition increases to corrupt the mind. And that is why in our society today, in Cameroon today, if you want to look at youths who were born with well-to-do parents, whose parents have better place in the government, whose parents are better economic operators, they are the highest in terms of moral decadence, in terms of misuse of resources, in terms of social life of inappropriateness. They are not doing the right thing that youth are supposed to do. They don't reflect the right virtues and values of the youth simply because they believe they have it all. So this is a problem. I have also come to realize, Mr. Liu, when you are in primary school, secondary school, and you're climbing the academic ladder, you discover that your aptitude to study in primary and secondary school is high because you are given everything and unconstrained. You are given just what is sufficient for you to study. But when you become maybe university level professional school where you are able to fend for yourself or the resources are larger, you tend not to concentrate again on those things or intellectual tasks because you have been open to the world of laxity, freedom. Money corrupts. And youth can better work when these resources are limited and just sufficient enough to do what they have to do than when they are more than the quantity required. That said, on the issue of youth coming together, I believe that Cameroonian youth who are watching us, some of them who already know who we are, know that at our own stage, we are trying as much as possible within our capacity to draw everybody on board, irrespective of our sector, our profession, our area, our political affiliation, in order that we can see how to create a forum for us to have a voice. And this voice is the youth's voice. And having a youth voice should not give us the impetus or that what they call pride, for us to start thinking that because you are a youth, you will start putting the values for the youth aside for vices, and you have to be pushed in front simply because you are youth. No. The values of courage to stand to defend, to cover your militants, followers, like the mother hen, the value of consistency of saying one thing and maintaining it, the value of credibility, giving resources and managing and rendering accountability to people, selflessness, sacrificing for others, among others, should be what should guide youth to leadership position, and not simply because you are a youth, they have to push you in front. Because we have seen situations where people are youth, but when they are given leadership position, they start deviating. They start feeling that they are dining and whining with the elites, and then they don't have any accountability to give to their fellow youth who actually push them. And in this case, you now begin to see leadership being made as a ladder of ambition or standard stuff. Like you have been pushed ahead, when you reach, you now shift the ladder, and then you now make the people to be disappointed. And this is the reason why some youths have lost hope in some youths that they have encouraged them. And we have to be careful, observant and keen to identify the people we want to empower in order that we should not be disappointed. But we do not have to look much on the negative qualities of people. Leadership, no one is perfect. All the presidents, Samora Machel, Jomo Kenyatta, Kenneth Kwanda, even the young guy who mistakenly took power in Liberia, I mean in 1992, that was Valentine Stresser at the age of 28 as a junior military officer. Had a lot of challenges as a young man, but managed the country so well for 8 years. But we have to tell people that don't look only at the negative qualities of people. When you want to look, ask yourself, what have I done? What have I offered? There's one musician who said that when you want to say that I am this, I am that, ask yourself, what have I done that people have seen? Ask yourself that, and then you will auto-examine yourself to know where you belong to the society. While encouraging every youth to be active participants in the political cycle.
Mr. Ndifo, how do we get youth to efficiently take up political positions and work together to actually be given their desired positions in life?
Jonah, I'll start by, if you permit me, reacting to something that Mr. Lemieux, I think Gentle, what he said. He mentioned the fact that people shouldn't vote any other person who is not a young man, who is not 40 or below. I don't seem to agree with that, his philosophy. The idea is not having a young man in office. The idea is having somebody who has the interest of the young people at heart. Somebody who has who has a plan for the young people. If you are going to be president and you are 80 years old and you tell me that you're going to make your government to be 60% of the young people, all right, fine, I'll give you my vote. There's nothing that says that an 80-year-old man cannot run in office, cannot be president. If you are 80 years old and you say that if you become president, you are going to ensure that there is employment for the young people, you are going to ensure that many more young people are engaged in the economic and political life of the country, then I will definitely give you my vote. What we are saying is that the young people can actually, like, coming back to your question, the young people can actually work their way into top position of responsibility without waiting for the old people who are there right now to give them that opportunity to get to that position. They can always, when we talk of politics, they can always mobilize themselves. I mentioned here that if they want to take over power, they have the ability, they have the possibility of doing so, because they make up 60% of the population. If you have 60% of the population, you are in the majority. And if you are in the majority, all you need to do is to make sure that you make your position, your power, you make sure that you have, people value what you have. People value the power that you have. The unfortunate thing is that the young people do not know the value of the power that they have, and therefore allow the older people to manipulate them. In this case, you have the power. You determine who to give that power to. And how do you do that? You mobilize yourself, you come together as a team, you come together as a group. The moment any government or anybody or any politician finds out that there is a massive movement of young people in Cameroon, those young people can now dictate the pace, they dictate the tune, they dictate the direction in which they want this country to go. They can decide and say, oh no, we are going to give our vote maybe for an opposition group that come together and send us a unique candidate. At that stage, they have already made themselves in a position of holding the power, and they are now begging. It is now the politicians coming to them and begging them to give them their vote. But when you are in the kind of state where you are divided and in different angles and yelling and shouting at each other from different angles, nobody take you seriously. People just see you as some noisy folks around there making some noise, and nobody take you seriously. But if you are able to mobilize yourself, come together, and make yourself a strong force, a force to reckon with, you will now be the one to dictate the tone. You will now be the one to decide who becomes what, who takes what, rather than you sitting and expecting that somebody goes up there and turn around and see you. Because what I've noticed is that politicians use young people. They use you to get to power. And as soon as they get to power, they quickly forget about you. That is particularly true of the current CPDM regime that we have. The majority of the people who vote for them and who mobilize for them are the young people. But when you look at what is given back to the young people, it's not commensurate to the effort, to the effort that the young people do
Okay.
in putting them there.
Okay.
So I will just to conclude, Leonard, I will conclude again to say that young people need to do more than just yelling at each other, more than just complaining, and more than just insulting.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu Ashatu, calling from Banyu. I support the youth seriously. Good evening to you, Ashatu. Glad to read from you. Good evening. The youths have the numbers but are not willing to take the power. Believe me, if the youths come together, power will be given to them. I'm Eswa Kizito Mbong, writing from Boya. Okay. Mr. President, good evening to you. Glad to read from you from Boya. Good evening to you at the studio. I love the program. Please tell the panelists castigating youth inability or unwillingness to participate in politics that the youth are very much aware of the reality that he who votes decides nothing, but he who reads the votes decides everything. Ewubong Valerie, writing from Bomenda. We have to change that mindset. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The youths in this country don't have any voice because the people in control always have their rules put in place by using their own children or school friends to maintain the same position. Paul is writing from Boya. Good evening to you at the studio. I love the program. Please tell the panelists, okay? I will taken already. Good evening to you all in the studio. Good evening. Good evening. My point of view about this issue of the youth not being part of political issue is not only about being poor, but to me, it is because of the lack of the foundation of it all, which is lack of developmental infrastructure and poor planning and, embezzlement by our leaders. Oops. At times it's difficult to read the messages. They keep just coming. I want us to use this last 20 minutes to talk about the celebration of 80th anniversary of Nijan Frundi, chairman of the Social Democratic Front. The Guardian Post says Frundi gets towering accolades as he clocks 80. Since we have just not much time, I'll start with you again, and for Richard. You are reading of the celebration or the attention that was given to the 80th anniversary of Nijan Frundi, chairman of the Social Democratic Front. His legacy, speaking while he's still alive.
Sorry, Leonard, can you question again?
Yes, I'm talking about the legacy of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, aptly celebrated 80 years after, while he's still alive.
Yes, yeah, Leonard. The praises that were paid to the national chairman there during the 80th anniversary is well deserved. The national chairman is true that he been criticized in several different angles, but the truth is that what he has done for Cameroon, the legacy he has left for Cameroon, is undisputable. We cannot deny the fact that we have today are nowhere close to the amount of the kind of challenges that were there in the 1990s when Frundi, at the very, I could say, youthful age of the 40s, took up the challenge and decided to lead Cameroonians out of a one-party dictatorship. Frundi has been very courageous. He has been very charismatic. His charisma and his courage is what brought Cameroonians out in their masses to be able to challenge a regime that it was unheard of for someone to even dare to mention the name of the head of state at the time when he came up. It was there were no social media. There was no even cable network for him to use to mobilize people the way we have them today. But he did all of that. He did all of that at that time, took the risk for himself, the risk for his family also, and did all of that. A lot of people say that he has sold a certain cause, that he sold a cause, he has betrayed the cause and whatsoever. And I keep asking the question, what cause are you talking about that Frundi has betrayed? From inception, Frundi stood for the fight for democracy in Cameroon. Frundi has always stood for that, and he is still standing for that today. Frundi has never been a secessionist. He has never supported secessionists, never ever in his life, since I have been following him for several years now. And so to say that he betrayed a cause that he has never supported before, sounds funny to me, to say the least. Because, and then there are others who say he has been bribed and he has taken money from left and right. But these people could not provide any evidence to that effect. None that I could see. You and I know that it took so many years for Frundi to even see Bia face to face, to even see him face to face. Bia himself mentioned it when he had his interview in France 24, that he had invited Frundi in his village in Bogmeka, and Frundi refused to come. And Frundi himself even said he had never seen such an invitation. And so a lot of people and a lot of statements that are made about him and a secret deal that he had with the President of the Republic is just laughable. Sometimes when I look at them, I just laugh because they are based on nothing but mere social media fantasies. People just make statements that are backed with no real facts. So I think that Frundi, at his ripe age of 80, and he has already announced that in the coming months, he's going to step down as the national chairman of the SDF. He's the only political party chairman in a major political party who has openly declared he's stepping down from position. He's the only political party chairman in a major political party who has given the opportunity for someone else to stand as a president.
Paul to the side and gave way for Mr. Njang Dennis to also do same.
Yeah, that's why I'm talking of that's why I talk of a major political party.
Okay.
Finally, let me just conclude with this. There is one thing about Frundi too that I admire. The fact that he is very consistent, he stays firm to his position, and despite any kind of intimidation, he do not shiver, move from one position to the other to satisfy the interests of some people. He stays fast on his position. I remember when he was kidnapped and at gunpoint, they asked him to ask his members of parliament to resign, and he said, no, I am not doing so. I have my conviction that they are not supposed to go out of parliament. They are staying there for the interest of Cameroonians, and they will remain there even at gunpoint. It takes a lot of courage for anybody at that situation to make such a statement. And that is the kind of courage that he has used to lead us and lead this country, the position of this country for this so many years. I think he deserves to be appreciated. Okay,
he's celebrating 80 years. One of the pioneers as far as Cameroon's democracy, multi-party democracy is concerned in Cameroon. You are a militant of the CRM party. The chairman is still alive. How do you see him?
Well, John Frundi is someone that I respect so much, as someone that paved the way for democracy in our country, like what Mr. Nzifo rightly said. But you see, along the way, I don't know if should I say there was a monumental blunder, because I think as a politician or someone that owns a political party that stands for the interests of everyone, if you look, the main backbone, that is the reason why SDF came into power, was to fight. If you want to ask, because I've interviewed most of my brothers and sisters, fathers back in Northwest, I discovered that they gave all their hope. They gave all their all. I'm talking about an alliance that was formed, the Takenberg, most of our that even gave their all through the guard. Gave all the guard, they call it the vanguard. In between that time, moving from one place to Furawa, just to give all their all to Frundi. And at the end, you discover that he brought a lot of frustration to most of those people, because when you go on ground now, you want to talk about politics, they will tell you that they heard that they went behind Fundi, and along the line, Fundi took them and kept one side. So I think that the objective, it was a good journey, but along the line, you discover that there was somehow a breach. Because, for example, someone like Honorable Weber, which I respect so much, when he stood up in the parliament to declare the wish, to declare the aspiration, to say there is a problem that is going on, it was a place for the right Nijon Fundi to rally behind him, because all those our people that were sending in the parliament, they were going there to speak the wish of Southern Cameroonian. But we discovered that along since he refused to Fundi refused to meet the aspiration of those people, and Weber stood up. It was the place for Nijon Fundi. It was the place for Nijon Fundi to go. I'm talking about the monumental blunder.
Yeah, but are you not just doing what we just talked about, the youth? You are an opposition person, and the first thing you are doing is to expose the weakness of the
No, I'm not. I'm saying on
and will you be very comfortable when they ask a question about Kamto, and the first thing they're doing is to...
No, I said it is someone that I really respect so much, but I'm talking along the way where there was a monumental blunder. There was a monumental blunder. Because, allow me to finish now, Mr. Leonard.
No, because I see him, it's very itchy to come, but very briefly, Mr. Yeah.
Yes, can I quickly react to...
Yeah, but very briefly, please. Yeah.
Yes, very quickly. He mentioned the fact that a lot of people fought and they did all of those things and they give their all. And he mentioned that they gave their all to Frundi. That is a very wrong statement to make. Nobody fought for Frundi. The people fought for change. They fought for democracy in Cameroon. They were not fighting for Frundi. As a matter of fact, Frundi himself was fighting for the same cause that those people were fighting for. You can't say that they were fighting for Frundi. That is a very wrong way to play it.
As a leader, this is responsibility. Okay, I will just...
What do you mean he refused to meet the aspiration? What was Frundi supposed to do? Go to Yaoundé, beat Paul Biya and pull him out of the chair, out of the office? What do you mean? In fact, I don't understand.
I am talking about the monumental blunder. Okay, because along the line.
No, please, we don't have much time. We don't have much time, please. No. Ndifo, please. Ndifo. Ndifo.
Let me just conclude.
Wow.
When what I'm saying is that Fundi, like any other human being, has errors.
You are creating, but I see you are creating, but
Mr. Nzifo, please, I will just permit, because you see what Cameroonians are fighting is they are fighting for that change. Remember that 2018. When Professor Maurice Kamto declared that he was the winner, it was the place for the Nijon Fundi to say that, okay, this is someone that is fighting for change. Let me give my all. But he came in to give a monumental blunder that in his time he was arrested, but Kamto has not yet been arrested. So you discover that the interest there is not the interest for the general people. That is why.
Is it about Kamto and Fundi?
No, I am talking about the blunder, which if we are
saying that Frundi won election.
What Mr. What I am saying is we should be that politician. We should be that politician.
Ask you about
He did not win. The Kanto
please. No, Ndifo, please. Ndifo, please. Yes.
I would like to say something. I want to say so. Let me be clear about this. I am not the militant of SDF, but I want to clear. We are talking about his legacy, and you have made a mention of Weber in Parliament, and I quite remember that there was the member of Parliament who marched in Parliament, calling and making a lot of singing songs in Parliament were members of SDF. Meaning that they were really in support that there's a need for Cameroonians to look into Anglophone problem. I quite remember they take notes among all the representatives of different political parties in Cameroon at the National House of Assembly. Those who marched crying that there's a need to look in Anglophone problem with representative of SDF.
Being rejected
normally,
by the national,
but notwithstanding
the interest of the people.
Notwithstanding
this, I'm talking.
let me land.
Let me reunion.
I'm saying I
save the people.
I'm not refusing. The member of SDF marched in the assembly crying on that the government come and should look into Anglophone problem. SDF representative.
You are not the host of the program.
Okay, no problem. Let me continue. Let me continue. You have said something, sir, and I will not like the issue of 2018 presidential election. From the onset, let me come back to what Mr. I want to talk about legacy. I'm not a supporter of SDF, but I'm an analyst. I like to look into things. From the onset, Frundis, there are two types of politicians. There are radical politicians and there are moderate politicians. Frundis is a moderate politician. Those who want things to be done peacefully. Frundis don't want bloodshed. Frundis, that's something that I've known about him. I would not like to talk. Had it been Frundis like bloodshed, Mr. On the 26th of May 1990, when the SDA was created, there were two venues. Frundis have chosen Commercial Avenue, but due to the militarization of the area, Frundis decided to use Taricom, where there was a big peace. The atmosphere was conducive, so that people will not die. That's the first thing should have seen that Frundis is a moderate politician. Secondly, 11 October 1992 presidential election, where Frundis SDF was the second with 34.9% behind President Popia, who had 39.70%. Many Cameroonians, even when the Supreme Court in Yaoundé declared President Popia as the leader, many Cameroonians, especially in areas like Northwest and littoral areas, they demonstrate putting pressure on Mr. Frundis that take power by force. But Frundis is not a radical politician. Let me answer. Frundis is not a radical politician, and Frundis is not someone who wants blood. Had it been Frundis was a radical politician, many Cameroonians would have died. Especially, I'm talking from my own perspective. Because we are having radical politicians in Cameroon that they have caused a lot of trouble in Cameroon, that whereby they have said that no, we must take power. Frundis, had it been Frundis was someone who listened to people, especially that 1992 presidential election. People say that he blundered, yes, but Frundis is a moderate politician from onset, and that's why he did not use force in that night, because many Cameroonians were putting pressure. I think in that particular 1992, December 1992, there was a whole state of emergency whole of Northwest because of political protests and many other things. So I'm trying to say about issue of bloodshed. Frundis is a moderate, not a radical politician. Don't take Frundis as a moderate politician and compare with a radical politician. There are two different set of people. Radical politicians use protests, they use demonstration, they use force to take power. But moderate politicians want a peaceful way to get power. That's what I'm trying to differentiate here on the platform. Mr. Moderator, I will learn by continue to give a lot of praise to this particular Frundis. I'm not a militant or SDF. I've never supported SDF, but I like to analyze things. The first thing that the most achievement or legacy of Frundis, I applaud a lot. Today we're having more than 350 political parties in Cameroon. Why? Because of Mr. Frundis, who is unorthodox. I will put it on unorthodox. Although we are saying that 1990 December laws, introduction of multipartism, but we have situation in Cameroon where laws in Cameroon only on paper. We have talked about 18 January 1996 decentralized. Let me learn, sir. We have talked about 18 January 1996 decentralization laws. Today we are still talking about effective decentralization. Because I've discussed somewhere said that no, government already approved the issue of multipartism. No, it was on. If we are having many political parties today like PAP, CM on the platform condemning Frundis, it is time to Frundis that many parties are existing today. Because it was into the laws. The parliament already approved it, but notwithstanding, he used force. And today, having many political parties. So that is an achievement on the part of Mr. Frundis. The only thing that I look at it, you cannot give, I will not look negatively. In 1992, after presidential election, Frundis boycott. SDF from Frundis boycott the legislative and municipal election. That is the weakness I'm seeing as far as his party is concerned. Because the major reason why they boycotted the 1992 municipal and legislative election was because, according to Frundis and SDF, they say that there's a need for a national election or a national independent electoral commission to control election. That is the main reason why they boycotted the 1992 election. But still today we don't have any independent national electoral commission, and SDF is even involved in political election in Cameroon. Okay. So that's my own big weakness.
Fabrice Lena. Yes. We are talking about the SDF, Social Democratic Front. You are the Secretary General of the CRM.
Popular Action Party.
PAP party. Did you write to reach the national chairman?
Of course, I made a post. And
recently, I saw you visited the...
Yes, I actually visited him, as a young political apprentice in the field of politics in a complex political society like Cameroon, the first thing I would say is that in as much as people have their strengths and weaknesses, we shouldn't focus on people's blunders. Because, you know, there is an African proverb that when you gaze too much into an abyss, the abyss will gaze onto you, you know. In life, when you want to check too much the how far of somebody and his or her blunders in an administration, the next thing would be elements of investigation of your own blunder, and you will become bemused by the facts and evidence that will be against you. I would first of all like to congratulate Nijon Fundi. He is a man, in as much as you look at his party with all the weaknesses and whatsoever, one cannot withhold but admire his fortitude, his strength, his courage to stand and defy the odds of the 90s, create SDF, make an opposition voice. You know, many people always sit from afar. They don't understand how complex this political situation of Cameroon is. And one of those youths that, as young as I am, I'm privileged to have worked across some of the main political parties in Cameroon. I can say that I've gone and talked with Nijon Fundi, with Maurice Kamto, with Kawala, with Penaikoka, and so many of these people. And to a certain extent, one has grasped a knowledge of how all these things work, all these things function. And what I can say is that the basis of multi-party politics in Cameroon was not on a balanced scale like most African countries had. You know, some countries like Ghana, some countries like Nigeria, Senegal, to a certain extent had the privilege to have a balanced setup of multi-partyism where opposition and the party in power were given equal opportunities to start the basis of competition. But in Cameroon context, tripartite of sovereign conference was abolished, replaced with some other thing. A lot of things went wrong. Even the 1990 laws was not that favorable, and CBDM was just transformed from CNU to CBDM, still using state machinery, no independent. So all this put together made it so difficult for whosoever, as an individual or having a political party, to really brave the odds. In as much as we want to criticize Fundi, let's know that it's the special grace of God to have 80 years. And one paradox in Cameroon that I want to let Cameroonian youths know, that most of the people we criticize with a lot of arrogance are the people that God has permitted and granted long life.
Okay, thank you. Good
Yes.
evening. Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Kum, and all the panelists. Talk us to Mr. Leonard Fabrice. Listening to him talk makes me overcome fear and want to do better than my best. Zach Anglophone is writing from Soa, that's in Yaoundé. We are ending at this juncture. And therefore, thank you for participating.
Thank you so much, Leonard. Just to conclude and to say that
not much time, please.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, and thanks our viewers for watching.
Okay. Thank you too for coming.
It was a pleasure to be on this platform. Thank you.
Okay. Sandukong, thank you for coming.
We are Cameroonian. I keep saying that only Cameroonian can sit together to discuss about issues related to Cameroon. I will be happy again if I'm invited.
Okay. And to you, Fabrice, thank you.
I'm grateful to be your guest this evening, Celio. Thank you very much for always having me on board.
Okay. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch the program, even those of you who sent insultive messages. We, as we say, traditionally on this platform, is also part of democracy. Insult us as much as you can. At least that is also pushing us to do a better job. We want to thank the production team, Desmond, and you, Christian Tebong, who is producing the program, and those at the broadcasting, not forgetting you, Tabi, Tambe Brian, supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.